When converting your existing RCA from the old style plastic lever to the new style steel lever, you want to Dremel approximately 1/8 inch into the door. You want to come down approximately in alignment with the straight edge of the door on the bottom, and you want to go right about straight into the curve on the top to extend the curve down, and you want to go about halfway through the thickness of the door. First, you want to peel the backing off the decal, get the RCA in a stable position, and you want the bottom of the RCA and the straight edge of the decal to be perfectly aligned, and you want approximately a 1/64th gap between the RCA and the bottom of the decal. Alright, first you want to go ahead and stick your 5/64th drill bit in your drill, and just make sure that the RCA is horizontal with the table, and align the drill bit point as best as you can with the little black dots. Just try to make sure it's dead on, and you only need to drill through the first wall, just where the decal is. Go ahead and peel the decal off. If you're doing multiple RCAs, you can go ahead and save the decal and reuse it. Otherwise, just go and throw it away. Put your 1/8 inch drill bit in. Enlarge the holes, and as with the first drill bit, just make sure the drill bit is level and in line with the RCA. Grab your 1/2 inch countersink and go ahead and countersink the holes, and only take a little bit off, and then you can take more as you go. Just make sure you don't go too deep, and then you can check the holes with the screw head to make sure that the head flushes out. Alright, the next step is you want to break out the existing plastic tab that's in there. You can use any pliers, just make sure that they fit inside the back. It's better if you use a slightly bigger pair of pliers so it can break out as much of the tab that's there as possible. That way it leaves less that you have to slice out with the razor blade. You want to break it out right around 1/2 inch deep. That makes sure that when you put the steel tab in, it's not going to hit anything and won't be held up. Just take any kind of a razor blade and slice any raised debris off on the front or back. You can also use a Dremel tool if you have a Dremel. You could put a grinder wheel or a high-speed cutter, any type of thing, anything to remove all of the raised debris that's left from that tab. Just make sure it's all cleaned out and square in the bottom, and you're good. Okay, the last step for the rear reinforcement is go ahead and insert the steel latch tab. The first screw you want to put in is the shorter one. It's the 440 by 3/8. Go and start screwing it in. If you want, you can screw it in part way. If you're having problems putting the lower screw in, screw it in part way, and then when you put the 440 by 1/2 inch on the bottom, you can get the thread started on that one, and then once they're started, go ahead and cinch the top shorter screw, and then cinch the bottom one up. Either way, as long as you get it in and the screws are snug, that's all that matters. Okay, the first step for the door reinforcement of the RCA is take your ruler and make sure it's perpendicular to the hinge. And the measurements, you want to follow the specs on the outline sheet you should receive from us. Just make sure that that on the top and the bottom you are aligned with the third knurl, between the third and the fourth knurl of the hinge. Same thing with the door. Just keep in mind that the measurements for the door are different than the measurements from the RCA. You can consult with your outline sheet to verify the measurements, and just try to get them all as even as possible. Make sure both measurements for the door and RCA are even, so the screws come out aligned and looking even. Alright, the next step is you're going to be drilling those marked holes with the 5/64 drill bit, and stick your 1¼ object. It could be anything, wood, anything that's 1¼ inch. Just make sure you measure it to make sure the measurement's exact. You can use a drill press also if you have one. It will make the holes more accurate. If you're not using a drill press, just make sure that you have the drill as straight as possible by eye. Just look straight at it and then look a 90-degree angle at it. Just make sure it's straight. Then for the door, you want to go ahead and flip it down until it's flat on the wood. But you want to make sure that the flat part of the door is on there, not the curved part. That will that'll make your hole go crooked. And just make sure that you go all the way through, especially on the door, because you may just go through the metal, but it won't go through the door completely. So make sure you drill through everything completely. Alright, next step, go ahead and take your 1/2 inch countersink, put in your drill. For those of you who are rear reinforcing also, this is the same 5/64 drill bit and the same 1/2 inch countersink that you use for the rear. It works the same for this. And it's the same thing as the rear, just chamfer the holes down until it looks like it's deep enough for the screw head. Remember, take a little bit off, until it looks like it's enough, and check it with the screw head, make sure it flushes. If it doesn't, you can always take the screw back out and countersink a little bit more. You just don't want to go too deep. Flip the door down onto the wood, make sure the flat part of the door is flat on the wood, not the curved part. And the same thing in the door. The door will not chamfer quite as deep as RCA, but just go until the chamfer starts to hit the metal. And then go ahead and take your 440 tap, put that in your drill. This you don't want to do in a drill press, you want to do this handheld. And you want to push kind of hard at first, and then you can, and on a slower speed, then you can speed it up once the threads engage into the metal. Just make sure you go all the way through so you get full threads. Doesn't matter which one you do first, the door or the RCA. Just make sure you have full threads in all four. That's it. That's all your drilling and tapping for the RCA. It's ready for the screws. Okay, the last step to reinforcing RCA is putting the thread lock and the screws in. You can use any thread lock. It can be low strength, semi-permanent, permanent. Permanent would probably be best. Any thread lock will work. I only put just a little dot, just enough to cover the hole. You don't need to put any more than that. All 4 screws that you received with the kit, they're all the same. They're 440 by 1/4. And with these ones, you don't want to tighten them too much. You just want to snug them up. The rear reinforcement screws for the rear with the steel latch tab, you want to tighten those a bit more. You want to cinch those up. These ones, you just want to pretty much snug it just until the screw stops. If the screw head does not flush out, you may need to pull it back out and re-countersink it just a little bit so it goes deep enough. All 4 screw heads should be to about the same depth. Should all flush up. Then you'll go ahead and open the door up. What I do is I take a rag and I just abrade it real quick, and any debris that's left from the drill, it breaks that off and cleans all the Loctite off. And your RCA is fully reinforced.